Hey everyone, and welcome! Today, we are diving into a story that is absolutely timeless, but has a really sharp, really modern lesson for every single one of us. We're talking about the peril of pride, and we're going to look at it through the ancient fable of the gnat and the lion.
So let's just kick things off with a question that's going to flip what you think you know completely on its head. Is success actually more dangerous than failure? Yeah, I know, it sounds totally backwards, but as you're about to see, the answer might just surprise you.
And this quote right here, this is the core idea we're unpacking today. The idea that a victory can create these huge blind spots, making us vulnerable in ways we never, ever saw coming. And to really get this paradox, we're going to turn to a classic story from Aesop's Fables.
Okay, so let's get into the fable itself. It's such a fantastic tale about how the great can be vulnerable and the small can be, well, reckless. It's a story that perfectly shows how winning can sometimes be the very first step toward losing everything.
The story starts with this tiny little gnat just buzzing around a lion's head. And the lion, he's annoyed, he shoos him away. But the gnat, he is not having it. With just unbelievable nerve, he challenges the king of beasts, basically asking if that fancy title is supposed to scare him.
So the gnat attacks, stinging the lion on the one spot he can't defend, his nose. The lion goes absolutely berserk, swiping and clawing, trying to crush this tiny insect. But in his fury, he only ends up shredding his own face with his claws. The gnat just keeps up the attack, until the lion, exhausted and bleeding, finally gives up.
And here's the turn. The gnat, having just taken down the most powerful animal in the entire forest, is completely over the moon. He buzzes off, not just to get away, but to make sure every single creature hears about his incredible triumph. He is just totally lost in his own success.
And in that exact moment of supreme arrogance, while he's looking back at the lion he just beat, buzzing about his win, he flies directly into a spider's web. And just like that, the conqueror of the lion becomes a meal for a tiny spider. What a miserable end to such a historic victory.
So, what is this ancient story really telling us? I mean, the gnat's victory was real, no doubt about it, but his celebration was his undoing. He was so focused on the enemy behind him that he was completely blind to the trap right in front of him.
This brings us to the fable's absolute core lesson, this idea of double-edged success. Just because you managed to defeat a giant doesn't mean you're suddenly bulletproof. In fact, that feeling of invincibility is exactly what makes you a sitting duck for the next, often much smaller, threat.
This story gives us three incredibly powerful symbols to work with. The lion, that's the obvious, mighty threat we all face. The gnat, that's the victor who gets way ahead of himself, destroyed by his own vanity. And the spider? The spider is the silent consequence, the unseen reality that's always waiting for the arrogant to slip up.
And this is a question we should all probably ask ourselves, right? Where in our own lives, in our jobs, in our relationships, are we so busy celebrating a past win that we're completely ignoring a spider's web being spun right in our path?
So let's see how this ancient dynamic plays out all around us today. Because this isn't just some old fable. It's a pattern that you see repeating itself over and over again in the modern world.
I mean, think about it. Maybe you finally stand up to a difficult boss. That's your lion. But you get so caught up in that personal victory that you start slacking on your actual work and get fired for a small mistake. That's the web. Or in business, you see a startup disrupt some huge corporation, then they spend all their time on a victory tour while a smaller, quieter competitor comes in and just eats their lunch.
And this gets to the gnat's fatal mistake. He confused a victory of annoyance with a victory of strength. See, he didn't overpower the lion, he just exploited a weakness. His huge mistake was believing that this one clever trick somehow made him the new king of the forest.
So, the whole point is to recognize these common traps. Believing one big win suddenly changes who you are. Focusing on past victories instead of future challenges. And forgetting that pride and boasting, well, they make you a really predictable target. The webs are always spun in the path of the boastful.
Okay, so we understand the problem, we see the danger. So what's the solution? How do we win well without falling into the exact same trap as the gnat? Let's look at a practical playbook for staying vigilant.
This right here, this is the central challenge. The gnat's agility and his courage, those were his strengths. But his arrogance, his pride, those were his fatal flaws. So the goal is to keep the good stuff while completely rejecting the bad. So, how do we actually do it?
Well, here are 5 powerful mantras to really let sink in. They're all about staying humble, about keeping your eyes on the path ahead, and about respecting every single threat, no matter how small it seems. It's about being grounded in reality, not puffed up by praise. Ultimately, it really comes down to this one powerful metaphor. Your own pride is the sticky thread of the spider's web. It's what slows you down, it clouds your vision, and it makes you a super easy target. So managing your ego is really about managing your survival. And this brings us to the final and maybe most sobering lesson from the gnat's entire story. It's a fundamental reality check that we should all remember, especially in our moments of triumph.
Let's end on this powerful thought. A victory only counts if you live to see the next day. So the next time you're facing a lion, remember the spider is waiting. The real challenge isn't just winning the battle, it's having the wisdom and the humility to navigate the world after you've won. Thanks for joining this explainer.